So you might be wondering, exactly how far back in human history do explicit sexual depictions actually go? Are we talking a few hundred years, maybe a few thousand? Well, it's a question that naturally pops up when you look at our hyper-connected digital landscape today. But I've got to tell you, the historical answer is going to completely shatter your expectations.
The answer? It's at least 35,000 years. Yeah, 35,000. That is the staggering age of the Venus of Hohle-Fels. It's this mammoth ivory figurine discovered in a cave in Germany, and it's widely considered one of the earliest examples of borderline pornographic art. So right off the bat we can see that human fascination with sexual imagery, it isn't just some modern phenomenon. It's been a constant throughout our entire civilization.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to impartially trace the incredible and, often controversial evolution of this medium. We'll follow its journey from those prehistoric caves all the way to our modern digital networks, using historical data to really understand how it grew right alongside humanity.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to quickly define what pornography actually is, explore its prehistoric and ancient origins, see how the printing press era changed everything, unpack the digital revolution, and finally look at tech's erotic engine.
Section 1. What is pornography? The ancient roots of modern media. Let's just establish a solid linguistic baseline here, so we're all on the exact same page. Notice the etymology here. The word itself is a combination of two ancient Greek words, pornos, meaning fornicators or prostitutes, and graphen, which means writing, recording, or description. Now, originally, classical scholars used it as a pretty inoffensive term, literally just meaning writing about prostitutes. But as you can guess, over the centuries, its meaning really expanded to cover any sexual subject material primarily intended to assist sexual arousal.
And honestly, this desire is deeply, deeply rooted in us. As author Tom Hodgkinson notes, the desire to ponder images of lovemaking is clearly innate in the human psyche. Consuming these images has been an objective reality throughout all of human history, regardless of how any particular society viewed it at the time.
Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds across the grand sweep of history. We're looking at a vast scale here, from the Venus of Hohle-Fels in 35,000 BCE to the celebrated Kama Sutra in the 3rd century to the banned English novel Fanny Hill in 1748, right up to the internet revolution of the 1990s. It's quite the journey.
Section 2. Prehistoric and Ancient Origins. The Ancient World's Canvas.
You see, ancient cultures actually integrated sexual imagery directly into their daily lives and religion, often with a level of visibility that might honestly shock us today. Take Mesopotamia, for example. They had votive plaques depicting highly explicit scenes, which were sometimes associated with the goddess of sex and sacred prostitution. We also have the Turin erotic papyrus from Ramessid, Egypt. This is a high-quality scroll showing various sexual positions. Over in ancient Greece, red figure pottery routinely portrayed erotic imagery. And get this, the comic playwright Aristophanes remarkably came up with 106 different ways to comedically describe male genitalia. Clearly, some ancient writers had a bit of time on their hands.
And this brilliantly illustrates how vastly different cultures received their era's erotic material. In ancient India, the Kama Sutra explored sexual desire as a spiritual and practical ideal. It was actively celebrated. But contrast that with 18th century England, where John Cleland's Fanny Hill, which is the first original English prose pornography, was heavily prosecuted and banned for corrupting the public. It's the exact same human drive, but with completely opposite cultural reactions.
Moving on to Section 3, the printing press era. Mass production begins. This is where technology fundamentally shifted this stuff, from isolated pieces of art into easily distributed, highly controversial media.
Just look at this defining moment in 1527. The Italian Renaissance work I Modes, or The 16 Pleasures, combined explicit engravings of sex positions with actual text. That was a first in Western culture. And the reaction? Total, absolute outrage. The Vatican actually ordered all copies to be destroyed, and the author, Marcantonio Raimondi, was thrown straight into prison. It goes to show that the moment distribution technology arrived, historical censorship followed right behind it. But, despite that pushback, the march to modernity was basically unstoppable. In 17th century Japan, shunga woodblock prints absolutely flourished. By the 18th century, a massive underground marketplace boomed in Enlightenment England. And then came moving pictures. In 1896, Thomas Edison filmed a simple, harmless kiss, which, incredibly, was denounced as obscene in the US. It's a pretty far cry from 1969 when Andy Warhol's Blue movie brought unsimulated sexual acts to wide theater release, officially kicking off what became known as the golden age of porn.
Section 4. The digital revolution. The medium goes online, and the scale just goes completely massive.
The 1990s sparked this huge amateur revolution because suddenly non-professionals gained access to digital cameras and the web, and the scale of this shift is just staggering. By 2012, there were roughly 25 million pornographic websites. That was about 12% of the entire internet. Fast forward to 2022, and we're looking at over 10,000 terabytes of accessible content. Today, platforms like Xvideos and Pornhub sit comfortably in the top 50 most visited sites globally. The internet basically became a AAA engine for the industry, providing anonymity, affordability, and accessibility.
And all that accessibility completely shifted the economic power directly back to the creators. $7.2 billion. That's billion with a B. That is the massive amount of payments made to creators on the subscription platform OnlyFans in 2024 alone. It represents a massive shift from traditional, centralized studios to modern, independent creators who completely control their own content, their own brands, and their own distribution.
But here is perhaps the most surprising sociological angle in our explainer today. Section 5. Tech's erotic engine, driving modern innovation.
It turns out the pornography industry is essentially a hidden technological incubator. It's true. Even Gail Dines, who is literally one of the world's leading anti-pornography campaigners, acknowledges this objective fact. She states, "The demand for porn has driven the development of core cross-platform technologies for data compression, search, transmission, and micropayments."
So the crucial point is exactly how this process works. First, the industry's willingness to be an early adopter provides vital financial capital for tech innovators when they need it most. Second, well-funded webmasters aggressively push the boundaries of data compression. For example, they accelerated the adoption of the MPG-4 video format that we all stream with today. Third, they perfect secure online micropayments and customer service models. And finally, mainstream businesses safely co-opt these proven IT standards. The modern internet we use every single day was largely paved by the risk-tolerant adult industry. Kind of wild to think about, right?
So from mammoth ivory carvings 35,000 years ago, to the printing press, to the billions flowing through independent digital creators today, the evolution of erotic media really does mirror the evolution of human technology itself, which leaves us with a provocative thought to end on. As technology relentlessly marches forward, will virtual reality and sex robots be the next frontier? How will our absolute oldest human desires continue to shape the futuristic mediums of tomorrow? Well, that's something to think about. Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating history with me on this explainer.